Welcome back to the Bearded Bros Golf Show. I'm Rod.
And I'm Marcus.
What a crazy ass week. I don't really even know where to get started with all of this, with all that happened this week. Pretty much golf went nuclear.
Yeah.
Tuesday, we were in town together in Dallas, Fort Worth, attending a funeral service, unfortunately. Um, and as we were on our way there, started getting, alerts from different news sources. And I think even our mom sent a text, an article that she had received regarding the whole, Saudi PIF, Public Investment Fund, getting involved with PGA Tour and DP World Tour. And I do want to separate it out because I think early on we didn't really know it was separate from the live situation. But I
Yeah.
also have a cute clipped up on the personal side. After the funeral, we got to play a little bit of golf on Wednesday. So I'm going to cue that up here. Shout outs to our grandpa Lim, 87 years strong. Our mom sent out this picture from the two of us in our younger days when my grandmother married Grandpa Lim. We were both in the wedding, and that's our mom. And this is us on Wednesday getting around in. Neither one of us played up to our potential at all.
At all.
Handicaps be damned. We played like shit. Front nine, not that bad. I mean, it was respectable. It was okay. Back
It's a
nine,
war of attrition.
basura. Basura.
Yeah.
But it's always good to come together, get some golf in, and fellowship, and as you see family. Always not under the best circumstances, but neither here nor there. Just a reminder to embrace people while they are around. So shout outs to Grandpa Lim for being an amazing human being and a wonderful husband to our grandmother for 28 years. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so man, I mean, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I feel like we're gonna be on here forever, and that's all good. But let's just start off with the initial news. Came out of nowhere. Weren't expecting. There had been no announcement of talks. This was all brokered by a handful of people. I'd probably say less than 10 when you look at the Saudi side and just kind of the PGA Tour side, as well as
hmm
DP World Tour and the board from the PGA Tour. So, what were your initial thoughts when you saw some of these announcements rolling in?
Initial thoughts was I definitely didn't think it was true. Like, I thought we were getting punked or something. Like, and I hate to even use that term, but like, I definitely didn't think this was real. Especially when our mom was the one that sent us an article. Like, I definitely always think she is on the verge of getting scammed. So I was like,
Right.
is this from the Onion or something? There's no way this is for real. And it was.
No
And I'm
doubt.
like, and my immediate first thought was, what are you doing, Jay Monahan? You just went against everything you was talking about so sturdily, so strongly that you were against for almost going on 2 years now. Just for you to fold, take some hush money, and then I guess you just gonna feel like you need to ride off into the sunset now because nobody really likes you or is gonna fight for you. So
I think that was. Let's pause there. I mean, there's so many things to attack here. So let's start with off with
right,
that and how bad of a public relations debacle that was to speak so strongly against the morality side of it. And I posted a
exactly.
video. I had to get something out because I had so many thoughts going on, after this happened. So from a morality standpoint, he spoke heavily on, 9/11 and got those families invested in it, talking about the Saudis.
Right.
And we'll come back to that because Jimmy Dunn said something stupid this week about that. One of the brokers of the deal, Jimmy Dunn. And so, yeah, that part was a debacle because you can choose your messaging. Where's the PR for the PGA Tour that said, hey, we have the ability to craft this narrative the way that
Yeah.
we want to, in terms of saying, you didn't have to go all in, right?
Right.
I preferred some kind of measured message, even when this was going down in the midst of the season last year. We're on the year anniversary of LIV had holding its first tournament, right? But it had proliferated the entire first part of the PGA Tour season last year. We understood that.
Yeah.
But you had all that time to figure out what your message was going to be, and you were hard in the paint about, you know, the Saudi atrocities, blood money, all the moral things of it. Not it's a shitty product and we shouldn't
Right.
be supporting it. So yeah, I mean, Jay Monahan, bro, we know he's getting money. What do you think? What do you think the number is? What do you think the number is for him to ride off into the sunset?
Got to be upwards of 50 mil, something like that. I mean, he's already in his 50s, 60s, you know, and I mean, he doesn't need, you're the PGA commissioner. You don't need much more wealth to be generational with it. You are already sending your people off well off anyway. So, little extra 50 mil isn't going to do the pockets any bad. So, I, it could be the way that the PIF works, it could be closer to 100, but you just never know. It's just in my heart of hearts, I think 50 million is still a lot. Still going to be plenty of hush money for him to go off into the sunset with. So it's just it's a
Yeah,
bad look.
when you're negotiating kind of on your own at that point, you know, you're kind of looking out for yourself. And I've
Right.
seen quotes from him saying he was looking out for Rory and Tiger. Um, please, Ninja, please. Like you were not looking out for
Mm-mm.
anybody but yourself. And, you know, for you to tell players for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years that, hey, don't go that route, do the right thing, do what's in your heart, and again, play into the moral side of it, and then turn
Right.
it around. And I want to be very clear as well on our end when we've talked about this. Our discussion or objection to it has never been about the moral side. We have strictly talked about the product as it stood alone. It was
The
a
golf.
poor golf product. And people may have liked the team aspect or a different side of it, but I felt like there were always alternatives on the PGA Tour of what Live offered, whether it was the, Waste Management Phoenix Open. I know Phil's argument was about the money, and we'll come back to Phil a little bit later here. But, um, I just felt like it was like a complete hostile takeover. And as I think about it more, I wonder if I think I saw Jeff Ogilvy speaking on this, saying, "What if this was the plan all along?" Right? This is like fourth dimensional chess, where the guy
Right.
Yasser, I'm just going to call him Yasser Al-Rahman, or I don't want to screw his name up, so we're going to call him Yasser. Said, "Hey, let's birth this thing that we know is going to fail, knowing that it's going to put a lot of pressure on the PGA Tour to do something at some
Yeah.
point." Maybe he tried to get himself in the club another way prior, but it just didn't work out. He didn't have much leverage at the time. So I wonder if that was the goal all along. Ooh, got some thunder going on in my area. So I wonder if that was the plan. What do you think on that side of it?
Uh yeah, I mean that's a very possible way for them to go about it, especially since they have so much money to throw at it. You know, they could take so many years of losing money and still be okay. I mean, just like you were telling me last week or earlier this week, 100 800 million or so they lost in revenue. So, if you got it to lose it, and you're just going to be challenged by the PGA anyways, you might as well just keep going. And just like what the PGA did, they relinquished because they don't have the money to compete. So, you just try to all get it under one blanket so that the money is circulating within the power ranks and the players still get hosed. So, I mean, either way it goes, you left the players out to dry, and all they wanted was just bigger prize pools regardless. So again, it just looking
Yeah.
real funny under the light.
Yeah, word is that they were pushing on sponsors and trying to get sponsors to, pay out a little bit more to naturally bring up some of those prize pools. They reached into the cash reserves to create these designated events that they had been playing this year, and apparently that was near the end. And at the end of the day. we know money is a big factor. We all want to earn to the best of our potential. If somebody came and said, "Hey, for y'all's golf show that y'all do on Sunday, we want to give you guys X amount of dollars," I'm not going to lie and say we all don't have a number that we have in mind.
Right.
That's like, "Hey, that's the number that I need to get right and never and be able to have the flexibility that I want to do whatever it is that I want to do." Right. Um, and some of those guys like Phil, you call him insider trader. Who knows what that $2 million, $200 million did for him,
Exactly.
to kind of get out of whatever situations he was in. The rumors are out there in terms of what he owes people and some of his bad habits. He joked this week that he's near billionaire. I seriously doubt that, but
Right.
you know, it's very interesting how much the money component really just comes down to it. And I don't know if the PGA Tour just did a complete miscalculation at the beginning of this. I call it an arms race, knowing that they would have to basically outlive, no pun intended, this competitor. And would
Right.
they be able to withstand the charge long term? And I think somewhere along the line there was a miscalculation for us to do this complete 180 to where we've landed today. It's just complete, effery. The way that it just kind of swung all the way back around and without warning. And I get it. They've probably been talking for several months at this point, but clearly caught a lot of people off guard, from the players, even people
Yep.
within the ranks of the PGA Tour were surprised, people in the upper echelon. So this was a tightly held secret. Um, so not many people were in the know, and that's kind of trash, but it's the way things work in the business world, which I was thinking about this and kind of the video that I posted, and you tell me how you feel about it. Is that if you're not owning something, you're your employer doesn't give a crap about you at all. That's just you're just a pawn in the machine at that point, or just on the chessboard, to follow through with that metaphor. So, what do you think about if you're not owning, you're kind of just, even if you're the talent that people are coming to see, you're still just a part of the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, that's completely what it is. It's however much they talk you up. I mean, it's only so much power you truly have. Like, now you might have a little influence. You might be able to get people to say a little bit more things in your in your favor for you. But I mean, if you don't have any stake in it, if they're not giving you any kind of true power, then I mean, it doesn't matter. You're literally just getting baited out there. Just like, I mean, it was a perfect example. I mean, Rory McIlroy is just right there. It's like, yo, this is our top guy. Like, he is doing the talk and he is doing the walk and he is doing it all for the PGA Tour. And he's just gonna have to play better and make sure that he's in those heightened events so that we can pay him through those events. But we don't have any real money to just give him for being our spokesperson. So woohoo,
Yeah,
Rory, but hey, look, bro, like chill a little bit, but keep going, but chill.
yeah.
That's all
That's
it
a
is
good
to me.
segue. That's a good segue. So, with Rory, he's been the spokesperson, endured a lot of stress over the last 2 years, being the outward face of the opposition to Live. And it seemed like that really came to a head, around the time of the Masters, having to talk about it. And, let me cue up this video talking about the loyalty and what some of these PGA Tour players were offered. So here we go. So live offers that have been out there. Tiger 800 million. Again, these were all rumors. Some of them may have been confirmed. Hideki 400 million. The jokes about him flying Spirit. And he could have bought Spirit. Haha. That was out there this week. John Rahm 300 mil. Will Zalatoris 130. Sam Burns 100 million. I believe Ricky Fowler was rumored to have been offered 75 million. Again, all life changing sums of money.
Yeah.
And then this joke about Jay Monahan rewarding players with, pizza and Coke. That's, again, goes back to the being an employee, and this is what loyalty gets you.
Yep.
And then I have this Rory interview queued up. If the sound plays, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down on your end, okay? So that's coming up here, and
I
this
know
is
you
came
and
from
many
his
other
interview
golfers
prior
were
to
offered substantial
RBC.
amounts of money to join LIV.
I was never offered any money.
My apologies. Should the golfers who maybe stayed loyal and turned down LIV, should they be made whole financially?
I mean, the simple answer is yes. The complex answer is how does that happen, right? And that's all gray area and up in the air at the minute. But yeah, there's, it's hard for me to not sit up here and feel somewhat like a sacrificial lamb, and feeling like I've put myself out there and this is what happens. Again, removing myself from the situation, I see how this is better for the game of golf. There's no denying that. But for me as an individual, yeah, there's just going to have to be conversations that are had.
A lot of fans are upset at this news.
I'm going to pause it right here. So what do you think about what Rory said so far in this interview prior to this week's tournament?
Rory is doing what needs to be done. He is a player speaking for himself now at this point, and still trying to be on the right side of history. He's still trying to say the right thing. So luckily for him, he's saying some measured things, and he's going about it the right way. I think what he said is absolutely true. It's like, yeah, they should be rewarded, but it's like, how we going to equate a number? How and who's going to come up with the number? You know what I'm saying? Also, just to throw in like numbers like that, apparently JT didn't even get a number because he said no off the rip. He said, don't even come to me with that. Don't come to my team with that. So you got players like that. You got like Jordan Spieth, like loyalists like that are like, yo, we in the PGA Tour, bro. Like, you don't even ask me. Like, what about those players? They gonna get a free 25 million. They gonna get a free 15 million for what?
Yeah. Did it require you to have an offer in hand that you could use, kind of like a counter offer if you were trying to change jobs or something? And I think
my
Rory
mama said that I should be getting this.
Right. It's all ridiculous. And how do you equate that? And I think what's his name? Jimmy Dunn, who I mentioned earlier, who is one of the brokers of this deal on the PGA Tour board, mentioned that players that showed loyalty would have some equity in the new company, which at this current state is called Newco. They do not even have a name for the entity that is going to come about as a result of this merger. And there's so many other roadblocks, whether it be regulatory, that still have to be hopped before this becomes official. One thing that was so vague about it, and I found out later why it was vague. So, with the the Players Advisory Board, now that that's in place, certain things have to be approved by the players before they move forward with the league. In the past, they had an advisory board, but they didn't really hold much power. But a few years ago, the players were able to secure more power. So the reason for the lack of structure in this deal is that because the more structure that they put in place, they would have had to have held a legitimate vote to be able to have this pass through and not be blocked by the players and even come to fruition, which is why they were able to kind of bypass talking to Rory about it in the first place, or any players for that matter. So there's already some, trickeration going on in the background that, already sets it up for some crap, and Rory, to his credit, continues to be a company man, whether you think he's a fool for doing so or just loyal, whether you respect that. Said that he still trusted Jay Monahan. Would conversations have to still go on? Yes. I wouldn't trust Jay Monahan ever again. And he says he knows him and they've had all these conversations, but shit, man, I'm just saying that's a little crazy to me to put any faith in that guy who has sold you guys up a river for whoever knows what dollar. So
yeah.
Let me play the second half of this Rory clip and get your thoughts on the other side.
and LIV got very heated and fans got very involved. What'd you say to fans who are disappointed in this deal?
But it's not LIV. I think that's the thing. I still hate LIV. Like, I hate LIV. Like, I hope it goes away, and I would fully expect that it does. And I think that's where the distinction here is. This is the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the PIF. Very different from LIV. All I've tried to do is protect what the PGA Tour is and what the PGA Tour stands for, and I think it will continue to do that. So, look, going forward, I hope that there's, there may be a team element, and you're going to see maybe me, maybe whoever else play in some sort of team golf, but I don't think it'll look anything like LIV has looked, and I think that's a good.
So one quick note before I get your thoughts. To me, man, Rory explains this deal better than Jay Monahan did.
Right.
He just seems like to have a better handle on the PR aspect, even though he was given kind of the late night text on Monday and then, a call in advance of the announcement on Tuesday.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the second half of this clip coming from Rory?
Once again, Rory, top-notch guy, and very measured words. I mean, like, impeccable statement to me. I mean, like, you really just couldn't go wrong with what he said. And I feel like he crossed all the T's. I feel like he didn't cut any corners. He was specific as he needed to be. And, he went from there and still showed his, his loathingness for the product that we're fighting still. So, like, he did everything perfectly to me. Again, to the best of his ability, he is controlling what he is saying and what can be said, and still doing it, as you said, trying to be a company man and still cover his bases. It's crazy how he's maneuvering this, and Jay Monahan can't give us a straight answer, and he's doing shady shit. So, again, kudos to Rory. And again, shows the maturity we was talking about, with whether that be through therapy or just, trials and tribulations. But Rory is on his stuff right now. Now, he might not be on his game. He might not be on his golf game, but he is on his PR game, something serious.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's going to have, whether he wants to be a spokesperson for some kind, CEO, I think his PR game is legit. Showing me something. And, even today, like in the RBC Canadian, a couple strokes back to have a chance to go win that tournament and wasn't able to really step up to the plate and perform. Yeah, he scraped out a top 10 finish, 12 under. But yeah, I mean, I hate the perception. There was even a quote coming out of the LIV camp saying, they would never sign that bitch Rory. And I don't know, they didn't attribute who that came from. They just said it came from the LIV side. And I'm sorry, we're Rory fans just because of the talent. Seems like an all-around, just thoughtful dude, and just kind of otherworldly talent. Has he underperformed? Yeah. Would we have loved to have seen him, stitch together some majors in between his explosive start to his career and where we're at today? Heck yeah. But when it's all said and done, he's going to have an incredible Hall of Fame career, tons of years left to play. We can still probably see 20 years of good golf from Rory on this level. Maybe 20 is crazy. 10, 15 really good years. 20 would be stretching it because he's in his 50s. But, he's going to continue to stay in shape, bomb it. He's got tools in his tool bag that none of us have available to us. And so, I saw a quote on the internet, which, crazy place, in IG saying, "Oh, poor millionaire Rory, feel bad for him. He's not going to be able to, capitalize off the LIV thing." And I just think, at the end of the day, he was loyal, and got screwed. When you just look at it, he just got screwed, and he said he felt like a sacrificial lamb, which I think is very accurate, right? They just put him up there for the slaughter, didn't tell him about it, didn't give him a chance to, kind of circle his own wagons and get clarity on the situation before this popped out. And
Yeah.
we'll find out later, of course, as things trickle out. There was some rumors that John Rahm may have been in talks to sign a huge deal with LIV, and word of that coming out was about to happen, and the PGA Tour pretty much scrambled with Rahm being kind of next up. I think the only person that otherwise could have caused that would be Scotty Scheffler in terms of
Yeah.
name recognition and where the PGA Tour is leaning right now. So, it's a sucky deal for the players who have been loyal. Rory being the face, number one of that, ultimately got screwed by the situation the most. Let's see here. Also, let's talk about and pivot and transition over to another big name that's been in the forefront of this LIV deal since the beginning. Greg Norman on the LIV side of things. Initially, just rumors coming out the gate. He wasn't even involved in the conversation. Also, had no idea. So when we found out, or let's say when a Rory found out, he was also finding out. So I don't think that spells very much for the future for LIV, given that this was a deal made between the Saudi PIF, which funds LIV, but
Yeah.
has kind of tried to separate itself financially. Yeah, they were pouring into a product that they had stopped announcing the ratings. They weren't even talking about what numbers they were doing on CW anymore. It just was
Right.
clearly not showing up as a viable product. And so they felt like they had to pivot or transition as well. So let's pull this little snippet up as well. So this source came from a Twitter feed called Nuclear Golf. I will say through this whole LIV thing, they've had some sketchy stuff that's come out, things that have been accurate, some not so accurate. But here it is, just in multiple sources at the highest level of sport tell ESPN that LIV is unlikely to survive beyond this year, and if it does continue, won't be in its current form.
Yeah.
ESPN is also reporting that Greg Norman will not be involved in the future of the league, which we've rallied against Greg Norman being a complete jerk. We just don't like him as a person. His approach to this has been poor. He's never been a collaborator. What do you think about him? If let me rephrase this question. What do you foresee as the future of LIV, given what we found out so far this week?
I mean, hopefully it dissipates as well. I mean, again, like we said, there's definitely different ways and forms and formats to where we can get team golf back into the tour, back on the DP World Tour without having to involve LIV, and of course, with it being a losing product, it's just not even productive to put it back out there under any kind of form or name or anything like that. So I think it serves Norman right to not be in the know, because he probably would have messed up the deal with all his animosity and fake rivalry that he's trying to create between this anyways, because there was never a rivalry. These guys split. They wanted money. The PGA Tour was going to stand firm with what they were doing. It was never a rivalry. They tried to create the rivalry. There was never talks of PGA Tour talking about, let's do a PGA versus the LIV. That's the LIV guys trying to create some type of hoopla so that they could get involved in the ratings, so that they could get somebody's eyes on a worse product, because they needed some type of way to get people to look at LIV and what they were doing over there, because it wasn't a positive product. So I think
Right.
both ways it goes. I mean, like, it shouldn't survive on, because they're just losing money at this point. And then Greg Norman should just ride off into the sunset, broke as ever, or whatever money that they gave him. And then he's got a land
he ain't
shark.
broke.
Right. He's got the land shark. I mean, he's fine. And he's like
He's
70
flush with
something
cash.
anyways.
Yeah.
He's okay. He's
Yeah,
fine.
it'd be all right. I don't know. The Greg Norman aspect of it, I think if he gets kind of booted out of the equation, it's his just desserts, right? When you know what you were getting involved with when you started,
Exactly.
dabbling around with the Saudis. there's really no loyalty there. You're just the front man, and he had to know that going in. Maybe he didn't. He's a bit of a kind of a creepy character. I don't think he's well, socially adjusted from all the accounts that you hear about people interacting with Greg, all the way down
Yeah.
to his family. He doesn't seem like the most, socially adept person. So, the dude's got probably a bag coming to him, whether he's in or out, whether
Right.
Live exists or not. I think what you said about the Live guys drumming up drama is 100% spot on. I have a quote here from Martin Keimer. I was actually surprised because I took Martin Keimer as a generally decent human being from what you can tell, but his quotes, I don't know, man. I was taken a little bit aback. I saw this earlier. Let's see here. Got this queued up. So this is just actually, I'm going to kind of retell this story. So this is something, the first part of this came from earlier in the week, coming out from the Live camp in terms of a message that was sent internally. It says, congratulations to you guys. You've changed golf and you did it all in less than a year. Again, this is an internal memo. The employees on the call had taken huge professional risks to join Live and were understandably jittery. Norman radiated confidence, saying that the 2024 Live schedule was nearly finalized. Let's see here, move this forward. There will be no changes, operational changes in 2023, 2024, 25, and into the future, he said. Then came the mic drop. Live is a standalone entity and will continue to be that moving forward, and that comes right from the top. Again, Yasir is also at the top of Live, or has been one of the decision makers, the chairman of that group as well. So again, I feel like there's so much conflicting news, and came out day one after the announcement internally, and that could be to kind of steady the ship for the rest of the Live season and have no one jump ship. When you think about all the names, I'm sure there's a handful of people we don't know, but there are tons of people in that group now that had big careers prior to Live. Our favorite, or one of my favorites, Troy Mullins, who does a lot of the encore stuff, joined them after season one. She's a big name that we knew. David Faraday went over there. I'm forgetting the announcer, other announcer. Gary McCord?
Jerry Foltz went.
Yeah. And there's some big team guys and gals that are over there as well. Like that first season of on-course interviews were completely horrible. There's this guy named Dom Brule, who I think is horrible on the broadcast. When I listen, there's just a lot of bad. But you think about all these names that are now probably like, what am I going to do with my career? Yes, I have stepped up and kind of stuck my neck out for this organization that had no idea where things were going, but I was sold the hype, probably given a significant amount of change to go over there. But here's this Martin Keimer quote that I was just, damn, bro, is it really that serious? And is it that, not competitive, but just, is there that much animosity? So Martin Keimer, let's pause this here. So he says, I'm really looking forward now to the reaction of all the people who said, we don't want to play for blood money. And I want to emphasize the want. We don't want to sell our soul. Well, now they need to move to Japan and play on the Japan tour in order to stay true to their word. Bro, what do you think about that? That's, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Is a what is the first thing that I said.
What does that even mean?
Now that people who have been forced into playing for a league that they don't support the morals of, they have to hang up their career that they've dedicated their entire lives to, or go play on a second-rate tour. Again, they were choosing the PGA Tour, right?
Right.
Because that was the option that was available to them, and now they don't have a choice or hang up the golf clubs. And I think Rory said as much in that interview. He's like, I've come to reconcile myself with the fact that the money that I'm getting paid is going to come from the LIV Tour, or from the not LIV Tour, the Saudis. Yeah. What do you think, man? I know your face says a lot right now, but yeah.
I don't even know what to think. Again, it's just my thing is once again, it's coming from people and players that are past their prime and are looking for ways to just drum up reactions. Like, this is where you tunnel vision and you just keep walking forward like you didn't hear anything, because literally, what are you even talking about, Martin Keimer? These guys, they've already laid out what's going to happen. By the end of the year, the playing year, there will be another reapplication form or whatever system that they got going for them to reapply back to their prospective tours, whether that be
Yeah.
DP, whether that be the PGA. And they're going to be going through those avenues again. So they'll go through the
Yeah.
Corn Ferry, or if they have enough status, they'll go be back on the PGA. Like, why are we
Yeah.
throwing the Japan tour under the bus for a decision you made? And now
Right.
that got blew up. I am just trying to, within myself, figure out what is happening in
I know.
Martin Keimer's life. I just do not
I,
know.
I don't know. I don't know why. Like, he's never been a divisive dude.
Right.
Um,
That's a
I
crazy
don't
stray,
know.
bro.
I don't know where that one came from. He was just out there just shooting them up. I was like, damn, bro, not you. Like,
Right.
that one just came from left field, and there's no, to kind of speak to that, there's no more big live contracts coming. That's a done deal. And so
Right.
all the guys that got their money, and cool, kudos to you. You risked it all, and you were paid whatever you were paid. Who knows what Martin Keimer was paid at this stage of his career, because he hadn't done much winning. But you know, I don't know, man. It's just like you don't realize what you're saying. You're gonna have to be in the room with these folks. If you're cool with animosity, that's your on you, right? That's never been you. You're not built like that. But y'all are going to be playing on these tours again, be DP or PGA Tour, whatever
Right.
method that's coming from. They're just, I mean, honestly, the writing's on the wall for Live. There's not really a scenario where that's a viable product when the ratings were already low, and again, the money from that is dried up. They were just throwing money at players. Um, I don't know, man. I was just, again, while kind of putting together some feedback and just comments, that one popped up and threw me for a loop. So, Martin Keimer, shout out to you. Hopefully you got some tough skin.
Yeah.
Let me look at
Congrats
my
to all
list.
5-3 of you, buddy.
Touched on that. I want to bring up a comment from a longtime watcher of the channel, guy named Perry Wiggins. He's down there in the H Town area, but he commented back on the video that I posted earlier on in the week, and I thought his comments were very interesting, and I think it does speak to some things that are still kind of TBD. He said, in thinking more about this and trying to explain the negative aspect of this to a coworker that is sympathetic to the Saudis and Live, the biggest loser is the American or American-based sports leagues. If this gets approved, and this is still a big if, as this has to be approved by the U.S. and international governments, departments of justice, Saudis will own an American sports league. There's something unsettling about one of our four big leagues, sports leagues, being bought by a foreign government. And I get that. I think it opens up a slippery slope. Again, there's two things that have not been an argument for me: the sports washing aspect, as well as the moral kind of where does the money come from. I leaned on poor product, but I think that is big. I mean, essentially, with DP World Tour being a part of this, as well as the PGA Tour, of course, receiving money from this, I'm sure that will, I don't know, bubble over to the LPGA Tour. There's always been the Aramco series over on the Ladies European Tour. Um, but now it's in America, right? So, on the soccer side, Premier League teams are owned by the Saudis. What are your thoughts on this? PGA Tour essentially being owned by the Saudi Public Investment Fund.
I mean, I like to hold out on that thought. I mean, like not on that thought because I definitely have something to say. Like, but I mean, like I think it's not quite the Saudi government that's owning it. I feel like in the
Right.
verbiage that came out, it was somewhere along the lines of it's still going to be an American entity. They're just buying into it. The PIF is going to be putting money into this into this new company. So I personally don't think that they're going to have a say in it and how it runs over on our end. They're just going to have a little bit more stake in it because they're just putting money into it. So, and as far as morality goes, again, I think we're still okay there. But again, when you're dealing with this much amount of money, there's going to be very little morality left afterwards. So again, I just think that I would try to be on the positive side of things and still say that this is still American run, still going to have a lot of American voice in this. It's just going to have
Yeah.
like a little bit of money help to back it up and make it a better product. So hopefully that's what it is. I hope that there aren't any government entities buying into this. That's what
I
I
don't
hope.
know, man. Money
We
talks,
wish.
and
Very much so.
yeah, you wish, but when you're the one that's kind of supplementing a league that was essentially going to be, I wouldn't say that PGA Tour is going to be insolvent, but sponsors were dropping, right? So
Yeah.
we know that the Dell Match Play isn't coming back. We know that Honda dropped its sponsorship. There's another one that more recently came up that is also dropping. So there was some leakage happening, right, from a corporate standpoint. And when someone has leverage on you, then sometimes that can be taken advantage of. With Yasir being the chairman of the new entity that will come about as well, Jay Monahan right now in theory, still set up to become the CEO. I think it was Dylan Wu who said, "Okay, now Jay Monahan's the CEO of golf," just
Yeah.
across the world. I don't know, man. It this kind of entanglement, while typically it would not bother me from a moral standpoint, but I don't know. I get that uncomfortable feeling, right, when you sometimes can't put words to something that makes you uncomfortable. That's
Yeah.
kind of the way I'm somewhat feeling about this at this stage, and maybe that's unfounded. I hope that what you said does come to fruition, that it's just an additional funding source and there's nothing untowards about it, but
Yeah.
TBD, right? And that again, that's I think the structure of this is going to have to be really done properly. The reason that this couldn't have happened before, or couldn't happen in the previous structure of the PGA Tour, is due to the fact that it was a 501c kind of nonprofit organization, which does not allow for foreign investment.
Yeah.
However, forming this new organization, they can get outside investment. Doesn't matter where the money comes from. It's a for-profit entity. Even though that parts of the 401, the PGA Tour, there is some structure that will remain nonprofit. This new entity,
Yeah.
still TBD, and we have no idea how they're going to structure that to get around any regulatory stuff, whether that be kind of the antitrust, where they're essentially forming a golf monopoly.
Right.
And I don't know how they're going to be able to skirt around that, especially with, you know, politicians on both sides of the aisle kind of speaking out about this and saying it's always comes down to the money, which that's kind of just it's the way of the world at this time. But I can see that there might be some scrutiny, and it could just be a bunch of noise going on right now because it's fresh. Who the hell knows? We'll see where that part of it goes. But
Yeah.
shout out to Perry for dropping that comment and doing some deep thought on this. I thought it was really insightful. Again, just discomfort, and we shall see where this heads in the long run. So, really from a live standpoint, I don't have much else to say. Any other thoughts that you have on not live? Sorry, just this new merger. Any thoughts that you have on the situation that we missed out on or haven't covered in depth yet?
Last thing that I was thinking about with my coworkers at the shop is what's gonna happen now as far as it goes with like team competitions. And if everything's gonna be a heightened event, then I mean, what are we gonna do now as far as like that goes? I mean, I feel like the world golf championship needs to come back. They need to bring the WGC back, some type of entity where they're competing for like amongst that again. And I think it's got to be something. Well, I mean, these guys are back on the tour effectively by 2024 season, so they're going to be able
Yeah,
to get world ranking points again. So they can't complain and say like they're not getting the world ranking points. So get you some world ranking points, and then get into some of these top 60, top 70 world ranking points events, and then that'll be the no cuts. And then instead of doing the match plays or having the fun 2v2s or whatever, then we'll do those weeks of team competitions. Again, I think the thing is if we're going to do this, we need to do it the right way. And again, it's a 44 or 45 week season throughout the year. There is plenty
yeah,
of time to get some of these events in. It doesn't need to be 40 events of stroke play, the playoffs, and then that's
yeah,
done with. Like, we're just talking about the money's not adding up. It's because the fun's not adding up. We need more formats again. We need to figure out ways to link. I mean, the DP World Tour just came out with golf sixes, and that was a highlight of my week that week because it was something I had never seen before. I mean, seriously,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, and it's on TV. It's a pro event. What's to say we can't do something like that? Make it a 4 or 5 day event and stretch it out. Then, Saturday, Sunday is the same thing. You're still competing and you still have a cut, but you have 150 players in that. Or you do the
yeah.
Scandinavian mix. You do some type of
Good
rendition of
point.
that. You
Yeah, I
play
was
the
going to bring
same
that up. That
course. Y'all
actually
play the same thing. Like, that's a great idea.
it is a great idea. And I know the PGA Tour was hyping some event. I think it was sponsored by Grant Thornton that was going to
Hmm.
occur later on in this year. That
Yeah, that team
I'm sure
event's
it's
going to
still
be
going
fun.
on. But yeah, it's just like there are a number of different formats to play with to keep golf entertaining and also create tiers where, yes, you need events where stars are going to show up outside of the majors and have multiple
Exactly.
big name folks. But I think one thing that I want to kind of touch on that kind of was created with the live defections is that there's going to be no shortage of stars in the game of golf. I think that has been proven out that people will, people that are right on the
Right.
edge of kind of breaking out, new stars will always be created. And so, whether it's been Scotty Scheffler having the last 2 years where he's dominating and really putting himself on the map, name people will step up to the plate when the void is created. And so I
Definitely.
don't think that's the product of golf in itself, even with all the drama, is stronger than it's ever been. Um, we've been golf fans heavily involved in playing in the game for the last 11 years, but I'm, even just if I didn't have this channel consuming golf news, I even think ESPN is figuring this stuff out. I get more alerts related to golf now from ESPN, which they were, again, I'd always set it up, to get golf alerts, but they seem to be more frequent and more
Yeah.
involved. I don't know, man. I think everybody's catching this wave of golf, and even though it's a niche sport and that it's never going to be as big time as football and basketball, or even really baseball for that matter, it's becoming popular. I think it could very well overtake hockey in terms of coverage and popularity. More people are playing than they have in quite some time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like a void is being. It felt weird, for these last couple of years, but I think it's going to fare out pretty well once they kind of navigate through all this BS, and that's a lot of BS to navigate through. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that again they go back to some of these events that we talked about the match play when it was eliminated. That was a huge event that we enjoyed watching, and we're sad to see it go, especially with them really not even committing to that coming back at any point.
Right.
So
Dumb. And
dumb.
that's another thing. You telling me you put on a men's versus women's match play event? You telling me Star's not going to come out for that? Everybody, it's always been a boys versus girls type deal going on in this world. You think they're not going to come try to show out for that too? They 100%
Right.
are.
Right. And I
100%.
think golf's one of those games where, yeah, they're going to be playing from some different tee boxes or whatnot just because of the link aspect. But the game still feels the same, right? There's
It does.
still, there's beauty to both sides of the men and women's game of golf that's going to be an attractive event no matter what. I agree with you 100%. So, I think hopefully the powers that be have learned their lesson to be proactive about crap like this before some disruptor saying that you're not doing what you need to do, or a Phil
Right.
Mickelson come into the equation. And, I get it. The players are going to probably fare better off long term, but the way it was all gone about felt grimy as hell to me. You're just dealing with characters that are flawed. And yes, the ultimate kind of end game and result will benefit the game of golf, but how we got here was very ugly. And the story's still being written, and people are still taking their jabs and their "I told you so's." We're still in that stage where
Yep.
that kind of stuff is going on. But I hope that we see, again, the game get better, and we see the people that make decisions, but it's business. So I'm not optimistic. Are more proactive. I've worked
Yep.
in business long enough to know that when there's this separation of reality of what's going on the ground and then what goes on in the boardrooms, that they don't quite touch and they don't quite connect all the time. And so you get shit like this that happens, and a bunch of effery because there is that disconnect. And then, the people down below are like, hey, this is what we're living and experience every day. And, guys that sit on the ivory tower don't quite understand that. And I would say this: there's guys in those boardrooms that don't play golf professionally and never have, never
Right.
had the talent to do so, making decisions on behalf of athletes. And I think that's also a bit screwy. So, whatever the players have to do to secure more of an influence, more power, go back to the drawing board in terms of their ability to influence decisions and not be skirted around like they were in this
Yeah.
instance, needs to happen, or we end up back in this boat at some point. It's just kind of inevitable because we're not going to learn those lessons. So, anyway, shit, I'm running out of breath talking about this situation. It's just exhausting hearing all the news, getting all the updates, and still really we're no more clearer than we were
Still
on
figuring
Tuesday
still
when this
still figuring it out.
still figuring it out. I mean, there's really no more additional structure. It's just been back and forth and people trying to dunk on each other since then. So, um, one thing that we didn't touch on, we always hit on the PGA Tour winner of the week. Hell of a win by Nick Taylor, winning his third professional tournament on the PGA Tour, sinking a 70-foot birdie putt to win after a 4-hole playoff with Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy still, seeking his first win on the U.S. side of things, sixth on the DP World Tour. Fairway Jesus. I was disappointed him coming down the stretch on 18 in regular, play, not being able to hit the fairway on 18 and give himself a legitimate chance at birdie. Ended up coming off a high slope just to kind of get his par and get into the playoff.
Yeah.
Ultimately, with again just Nick Taylor sealing the deal in Canada. Crowds clearly, again, we talked about the popularity of golf. The crowds out there were nuts,
Yeah.
especially with the Canadian in the running for the win.
Yeah.
And
It was
so,
great to
yeah,
see that many people that were contending from the Canadian side of things. 100%. I
yeah.
mean,
And
even
then you
Mike
had,
Weir got out to a hot start a little bit.
I know. That's what I was about to say. Mike Weir and Corey Connors sitting beside the green, as well as Alan Hadwin. I'm forgetting
Yeah,
his first name
Adam
right now.
Adam had one.
Adam Hadwin, and then on the Euro side, you had Shane up there, and it was a wonderful event, and I'm sure those guys that are in that clubhouse were rallying this week, right? Feeling like they were in a silo with all the
Definitely.
the PGA Tour news, and again, Rory having to step up to the mic and speak on it, and those guys that have been around and loyal to the tour, kudos to them. I'm sure this week was a little bit unique and surreal to a certain degree on their end. So, but shout out to Nick Taylor for securing the victory and doing it for his country. So, last thing I want to really hit on, and from my end of things, is U.S. Open and all this bull crap that we've talked about coming up next week. Los Angeles Country Club. We're halfway through the major season. This is our third one. Course looks crazy. It's a
Yeah, the
unique
rough is
layout.
looking ridiculous.
Oh yeah, we all see the ball drop in the rough and see what comes of that, and you have to pretty much stand over the ball to get a glimpse of it. So you'll see some interesting shots coming out of that rough. But they also touted that these are the widest fairways that we've seen in a major championship, especially U.S. Open, in like 50 years.
Hmm.
So we'll see with it being a Bombers course, um, how that fares. I feel like it's wide open, right? The par threes, I think, are going to play a pivotal um, key in this tournament. So there's one par three that plays under 200. It's like 171 yards as the stock yardage. Every other par three out there is like 250 plus. I think one is even 290. Sure, they're playing downhill. What do you think about this? I know John Rahm was upset at the PGA Championship with the setup of one of the par threes out there. What do you think about these super long par threes? I get it, having one or two maybe,
Hmm.
but three out of the four par threes. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's hard to really kind of show sympathy for these guys because this is a major championship. It's the U.S. Open, nonetheless. Besides the fact that it's a major, and then you guys are the cream of the crop. You guys are the most elite players. So when you guys hit chopped off 4 irons, 230 on the fly and stop it within 10 feet, and then you guys go full bore on a 3 iron and it goes 260, I just don't really have a lot of sympathy for you getting mad at about a par three being 250 or something like that, especially with elevation changes to where it's probably not going to play that long. It's in LA, so you're on the coast. It's dry air, not going to play that long. Again, the way you move the ball, not going to play like that. So I don't, of course, you play rollout, you play release yardage. So again, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. And again, the PGA of America and the U.S. Open teams, they don't want to see you going and shooting 25 under at a major, no, and a U.S. Open at that. So if they have
Yeah.
wide fairways and one gettable par three, they've done their job. That's why the rough is going to be even worse. That's why the greens are probably going to be even faster and probably more slippier. I mean, or more slick. I apologize. But they'll have some gettable pins. You got to be able to adjust, get at the gettable pins, and play par golf. Again, I think this has to do with John Rahm just wanting everything to be predicated to him. I think he's getting a little prissy sometimes. It's like, bro, you're a star, and we pay you to be a star. That's why you get the big bucks. That's why we always have you in the media. That's why you're about to be a PIP winner. Again, bro, I just think he just needs to not be as animated about the setups as he is.
Right. It's not always going to be suited to your game. The venue is the venue. These are picked years and years in advance. So the course is the course.
Right.
I do like a decent mix of par threes. I think they've shown that, par threes within the 130, 160 range can be just as daunting as
Yeah,
the super long ones. Um, so we'll see how it ends up playing in reality. Again, I don't think people have been on this course in a while, and so you're just seeing kind of an onslaught of people walking the course, getting an idea of the lay of the land. Again, I love kind of West Coast, that LA style of golf. It just looks amazing on TV. Every year at Riviera, I look forward to that style and have terrain. And I think we're going to see similar looks with the backdrop of LA right there, and looking forward to another major. We'll see if we get, Brooks Koepka in the top five competing again. He's
right.
back healthy, coming out the PGA win. We know Scotty Scheffler is going to be in the mix. It's just kind of undeniable at this point. Hit or miss on Rory or Rahm. They both of them are inconsistent.
True.
As
Yeah.
much as we wanted Rahm to step up to the plate and be kind of just a indelible star, it's not always the case with him. We've seen some flat performances in majors from Rahm. Maybe Rory catches some redemption this week, coming off of the shitty news or the crazy news this week, that he just comes out, with that fighter spirit. Who knows how people are going to react to all that's gone on in the last week. I hate the timing of it again, with it being, right before a major, but it plays into ratings. I mean, even if it's
Yeah.
accidental, the PGA Tour is finally figuring out how to get eyes on their sport. Maybe a damn mistake, how they're doing it, or they're stumbling into it, but they're doing it. I mean, people are talking about
Hmm.
golf, talking about this story. It was on every, major news network. Golf is in the news. It will be again front and center in LA for the US Open. We will be back talking about the results, this week. So, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Shout out Dale Whitnell, DP World Tour, first time winner on tour. I believe he's like 39, so true
Yeah,
journeyman. Got it done.
yeah, he looked a little aged. Yeah,
Hey, bro was going up that left. That though he wasn't letting those arms release enough, so he was fighting, but he fought and he won. So shout out Dale Whitnell. You know, shout out
yeah,
that man.
good shout out. I think that speaks to how tough it is to win professional golf. I mean,
Seriously, everybody can't just take
Fleetwood
100
even.
million and then go on about their business. You know.
Nah, even Fleetwood had chances today to close it out, but wasn't able to seal the deal. On to the next one, and hopefully he eventually gets that win over here on U.S. soil. But yeah, good call out. We'll be back next Sunday after the U.S. Open live show talking about it. Bearder Bros Golf Show. Thanks for joining us. Peace.